know how many more I don't know how many more people we'll have, but we'll get started in just about a minute. And this is a pretty casual workshop. We're just going to kind of give some advice on how you can like optimize the experience that you had, and maybe look down the road to future conferences, and try to make the most of the opportunities that you have to maybe travel to a few more conferences, and utilize that as you're searching for a career down the line. Can I ask what year you are?
For sure.
Okay, great. Um, so you've already been to a conference, which is awesome. And what I would recommend is apply for every conference that you see come your way, not just honors conferences, but you may see that other organizations on your campus are also traveling, and you have opportunities. Maybe you're I don't know if you're like an English or literature major or something like that. They might be going to conferences as well. So you might find opportunities to either travel or maybe apply to virtual conferences. And that really is a great way to build your resume as you progress through your
Sure.
undergraduate career. All right, so this is a pretty short PowerPoint, but let's see if I can. So I don't know if you have a resume yet, but if you don't, now's a good time to start building it. Even if you don't feel like you have a lot of experience as a first-year student, any clubs that you're a part of, or any work that you've done in the past, any leadership experience that you have, you can certainly add that. I was going to put some examples of resumes on here, but it would just be me Googling and searching for them, and there are a million opportunities to find those online. They're really good templates online, as well as in Microsoft Word, so you can find a template that you like. The biggest thing, as someone who's looked at a lot of different applications, like thousands of college applications in the past, the biggest thing I look for, number one, is does it just look, it doesn't have to look unique necessarily, or it doesn't always have to jump out, but it does need to look clean and organized. It needs to look like you really spent some time on it. Certainly you don't want to have any grammatical errors. So those are like the big things that always have jumped out at me. And your resume should tell a story. And it tends to, if you're just coming out of college, you want to start with your education, then any relevant work experience, and then leadership experience. And then conference presentations will typically be toward the bottom, unless they're super relevant to whatever job that you're applying for. The more conferences that you attend, obviously, the bigger that section is going to be. So again, when I was an undergraduate student, I think I went to like NRHC 3 times. I think I went to NCHC 2 or 3 times. And at the time, you could apply to multiple, or you could submit multiple proposals. So you didn't just have to do one proposal. I think right now NRHC and NCHC limit you to one, but we also allow for an art presentation. So if you are into art, or we also have like, if you wanted to submit something for the art show, then you could actually have two in the conference program that could be accepted. So the more you have on there, just the more impressive that's going to look. So again, just apply for everything that you can. You won't always get accepted necessarily, but the more you apply for, the higher your acceptance rate is going to be. So I'll talk about how to put presentations on the resume. It's pretty simple, actually. You just have a section called conference presentations, and I have an example at the bottom so assuming this presentation that I'm giving today was my presentation at a conference, you start with the title of your presentation in quotes, and then in italics you want to put the name of the conference that you attended, the city and state, and then the month and year that you went to it. Another thing that is an option, if you've gotten involved, now you were a first-year student, you may not have been involved, for instance, that we have like a student activities committee that helps to plan the conference. So we'll talk a little bit about ways you could get involved in the future. But if you did other things at the conference, and if your resume is like looking really thin, you could find ways to work those in as well. If you went to the veterans breakfast, or if you did like the community service portion of the conference, you could certainly add that to your resume. And really, it could have several different lines that kind of give more description to what your experience is like. And so that could be a way to kind of pad out your resume and make it look a little bit more impressive. Any questions about any of this stuff so far? Or Kat, Marcel, anything you want to add that I'm missing?
I had a question. I was wondering how many, like, if you just had like one conference, like right now, I only been to one ever, just because I'm a freshman, I didn't really have a chance to go to many this year. So I was wondering if it would look odd if I only had one, like one in my resume, and it would like, because it would be like, it would take up an entire section, so I wasn't sure if that.
No, and because you've only had one, that would be a good reason to try to think of some other things that you did at the conference. Like you could almost treat it like a job that you had, where you would write several different like activities or responsibilities that you've had. But in this case, it would be, you know, the presentation that you gave. You could write that you met with peers from across the Northeast region. You could write that you spoke with faculty members and administrators from honors programs across the region. You could note other things. You could say that you attended 10 different workshops, academic presentations and workshops and things like that. So those are just ways to give a little bit more heft to it, so it doesn't look really sparse. Another thing I wanted to mention, if you're really happy with your research, you don't always have to, it doesn't have to be one and done. So if you think you had a really good presentation, you can use the same research and present it at a different conference. I think it's a good habit to get into, to do different research or different presentations for different conferences. But that's just another way to, like, when I was presenting or submitting proposals for NRHC when I was a student, I would often kind of tweak it a little bit and submit it to NCHC as well, and that got accepted a couple times. So I would maybe change the title of it, change some of the content, or add to it, or do additional research. But that made it so that I could fill my resume more with more presentations. All right.
Another thing I was gonna ask, if we have the time, is I was just wondering if I didn't like submit a proposal, or I didn't present, but I attended a conference and I potentially helped someone out, because I am going to be attending a conference this summer, but I'm not presenting anything. I'm just helping someone out that is presenting, because I'm like in the group that he had his project on. So I was wondering how you would put that in a resume.
I mean, if you're assisting with the presentation, then I would consider you a co-presenter. And so you can put the title, and you can put that you were a co-presenter, and include that. I certainly would. So, that way you could still, and then you can take the bits and pieces of your experience at that conference and try to add that as well to your resume. All right, I see we have a few new people that joined us. We're just kind of going through, and if you see the screen right now, I have an example at the bottom of like how it would look on your resume if you were to put your presentation that you gave at the conference. So I'm going to move on now to, I don't know if any of you guys got your headshot taken at the conference. Those are going to be available in about a week. So obviously, if you are on LinkedIn, and I would suggest creating a LinkedIn profile, depending on what industry you're looking to get employed in, it may or may not be that helpful. Some industries really use LinkedIn a lot and recruiters are on there quite a bit. Some are not, but I would definitely recommend having a LinkedIn profile, so you do have that online accessibility, as people can reach out to you and message you. Certainly you want to have a professional photo. Even if you didn't get your headshot taken, it's pretty easy with iPhones now to get someone to take a nice photo of you wearing a professional outfit. And then you just want to make sure that you complete as much of the profile as possible. LinkedIn tells you that you've got 75% of your profile is completed. The content of LinkedIn should pretty much match your resume. So as you update your resume through time, you should go back to LinkedIn and update that as well, so it's all recent and relevant. And there are so many different sections, but you just want to make sure everything looks clean and that you've put unique, interesting content in there that is going to jump out at people. That really says a lot about what your experience has been. And then if you can see here, there's just a couple examples. There, you can kind of create your own headline. So you can do, once you do have a job as well, you can obviously put what your job title is. But some people can kind of use a few more adjectives or try to add a little bit more to it to make it jump out more and tell you more, because it's almost like an elevator pitch. You have that small section that people are going to see. And this guy wrote powering solutions that enable billions in revenue. So he's got his title, his job title on there, but he also kind of what level he's at as far as his work in the business world. And the guy at the bottom also says his job title, but also has basically all the headlines of his resume in just about 15 words. So certainly you want to take a good look at that, put some thought into what that looks like, and if you were a person who was seeing your LinkedIn or your resume for the first time, you should try to think about what you would think of it and think of what would be impressive to you if you saw that. All right. I'm going to throw this one to Kat because I've not made a digital business card before, but I do recommend them. As someone who forgot to bring my business cards to 2 different conferences in the last 3 weeks, I recommend having something where you can give someone your contact info that's not just jotting your email address down on a piece of paper. So
sure. So yeah, there's a lot of different apps out there. The one that I found and that I've recommended to my students is Hi Hello. So you can see that the image is on the slide in front. So Hi Hello, you can create a free account and you can actually create more than one version of your business card. So you do have the option to upload your headshot. So Chris has already talked about headshots. So you put a nice picture of yourself up there so people can see who you are, and then you can choose what contact information you want to share. So, cell phone number, email address. You can also, I think, in the Hi Hello app, also include your social media handles. And then the way that it works is you can either send your link to your Hi Hello profile through text message to people, or it'll create a QR code that then people can scan. And if other people that use the Hi Hello app, it kind of creates a address book for you, inside the app. So it's really a great resource. Obviously, it's not the only one that's out there. And like Chris, I kind of don't have, I don't even have paper business cards right now. So this is an easy way to share things with people on the fly. And there's also not just texting and QR code, but you can also email it to people. So if you download it, it's fun to play with. For me, I kind of have a Hi Hello business card for my work as the honors director at my institution. But then I also crochet things. And so if I ever find somebody and they're like, oh, I'd love to ask you to make something sometime, I'll pull up my profile for crochet, which is a different email address and, different profile picture, and have them scan that. So you can have more than one kind of business card, if you will, depending on the environment and depending on the setting.
And another thing is, I remember being a student, and certainly my honors program did not have money to print business cards for me. It's just a student, but I would get some cardstock and just make my own and just design my own. So that's an option too. If you want to have paper business cards and you don't want to spend any money on it, just find a color printer somewhere, print some on cardstock, and just as long as it has your name and your email address, you can even throw a QR code on there if you have, if you want to link it to your LinkedIn. That's another option. All right. If any other questions about that before we move on to ways to get involved? No? All right. So if you were at the conference, you might remember us talking about some different ways you can get involved. We had 3 student representatives at the conference this year, and they do a ton of work leading up to the conference, make sure that they're all running smoothly. They run the student caucus. I think I have another slide that'll kind of go through some of the things they do. So you could run for one of those positions, which I think is a really great learning experience. It's a really, really valuable resume builder. and you get to work with, with honors administrators from across the region, go to a summer planning meeting with the board to help plan that conference. And then we have bi-weekly meetings on Zoom to kind of talk about where we're at in the process. So it's an entire year-long commitment, but it really is great professional development if that's something you're looking to do. If you're interested in event planning as well, that would be a great position. If you would like to be more involved, we're planning to come to the next conference, but you don't think you have the time for running for student rep, you could be on the student activities committee. So if you apply to the next conference, which the call for proposals will open in September, if you've been accepted, you'll get some emails about joining the student activities committee, and they help to plan a lot of the events. And they're at the conference. They can sign up and volunteer to assist with like setup for the gala, setup for the art gallery, things like that. So there's a bunch of different ways to get involved with that committee. Just going back to the student representative position, like I said, it's a one-year term. You would come to the conference location over the summer for a couple days. And so you'd want to get your honors director's permission and make sure that they're going to assist you with your application and hopefully fund some of it. We do have up to $1,000 in travel reimbursement. So they may not need to fund any of it at all, but you definitely want their support, that you would be supported in the travel anyway to come to the summer planning meeting as well as coming to the conference. And yeah, another big thing they do is they're really big on social media. They do all of our social media promotions. So if that's something you're good at or you're interested in, that could be, we generally take one of the student reps that tends to be a little bit better with student social media, and we kind of throw a lot of that to them. So you can, if you're not great with it, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't apply. And then, yeah, they work with the student activities committee. They do a little bit of everything, and it really is a great learning experience. If you saw say about their experience, I think they're really happy that they decided to make the commitment. I think that's it. Marcella, Kat, did I miss anything?
Did you go through the Illuminate stuff?
Did I miss that slide? Oh, I must have skipped that. All right.
So I'll jump in on this one. So Illuminate is our undergraduate journal for NRHC, and we do both academic and creative submissions. So if you did an academic presentation at NRHC, but you've written a paper, right? You can submit that paper for consideration to Illuminate. You could submit any paper that you've done. Typically, like, I recommend that students do use a paper from one of their honors courses to submit. It doesn't necessarily have to be your conference presentation, but it could just be a paper that you're really proud of. It can be secondary research entirely, or it could be including primary research. It really depends on where you are in your degree program and what year you are. Sometimes earlier students are only doing secondary research, but then when we get to capstone level, you have capstone students who've done some primary research. But if you don't have an outstanding academic paper that you'd like to submit for consideration, we also take creative submissions. So those include poetry, short fiction, anything that's art related, photographs of artwork or photography itself, drawings, digital art, all of that good stuff. So if you go to illuminate.nrhc.com, you can read through all of the submission guidelines. They're due by Sunday, May 21st. And I am the person who reviews like all of the submissions that we get, and then I send them. It's a peer review process. So 2 reviewers would review your submission, provide feedback, score it, and then we determine if your piece is accepted with minor edits. Conditionally accepted, meaning you'd have to make more major revisions and it would then be re-reviewed. Or, there are some pieces that aren't quite there yet and they do get rejected. But typically we accept the submissions through close to the end of May. We send notifications sometime towards the end of June, so it takes about a month to look through everything. And then any sort of revisions would then be due probably in August. And final drafts would be due in early September. And we usually publish in October or November, depending on kind of how things go. Everything is published completely online for Illuminate. So you can actually go online and you can look at our most recent edition, which is our 2022 edition. Okay, so you're looking to submit for the 2023 edition. So you can get a sense for what the papers look like, how the website looks. But again, when you get published in Illuminate, similar to the way that you would have a section on your resume for conference presentations, you can have also a section called publications. And then you'd be able to list your publications as part of your resume as well. So it's a really great opportunity. If anybody has questions about Illuminate, of course, I can answer them today, but I just wanted to kind of plug it a little bit for those folks who are here, or for anybody who watches the recording.
All right, any other questions? Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining us. If you do have any questions, I probably should have put my email in here, but it's just northeastregionalhonorscouncil@gmail.com. Feel free to email us if you think of anything. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you apply to the next conference.